The Truth About Goblins. Chapter 32. By the time they arrived back at the tea shop, Saphira and Timothy were exhausted. All the excitement paired with the long walk had taken its toll. They stepped through the shop door with a sigh of relief, glad to have returned. "You go on ahead," said Timothy, gesturing to the curtain in the back. "I have to rearrange some things downstairs." "All right," said Saphira. She stopped at the curtain. "Timothy?" "Yes?" She hesitated. I'm sorry about everything. I would understand if you were still angry with me." He forced a smile. "Not angry, not with you, anyway." He sighed. "We'll talk more tomorrow." She nodded, watching as he turned his attention to the shelves. "Don't stall for too long. You need to rest more than I do." "I won't be long," he promised. She took his word for it and hauled herself up the stairs. The last few days had been nearly unbearable. Even opening the apartment door was a challenge. She caught the familiar scent of home and eagerly stepped inside. But just as she had made it past the door, she stopped. The table had been overturned, the chairs thrown to the ground. Everything from the cupboards and drawers were scattered across the floor. Even the cushions from the couch had been torn off. She walked inside, silent, trying to understand. Not an earthquake, not an accident. Someone had been here. Someone had been searching for something. The room went dark. She spun on her heel. Someone grabbed her arm. A hand clapped over her mouth. "Don't scream." She twisted out of his grip, falling to the floor. He stood over her, arms motionless at his side. "No one will hear you, and there's no need." She got to her feet, legs shaking. There was a hood pulled over his eyes. She couldn't see his face in the dim light. "Who are you? What do you—" "Where is it?" he said. "Where is the stone?" Her heart jumped to her throat. Hearthstone chaos. He was after the crystal. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I'm not here to play games, princess." He stepped between her and the door. "Tell me where it is, and I won't be forced to hurt you." She couldn't understand. "How do you—" "Answer me. Where is the stone?" Her mind was racing. It was happening too fast. "I don't know." He stepped forward. She staggered back. His steely eyes caught the faint light. "Say it once more, and I'll kill you." He knew she had it. He knew everything. "Please," she cried. "I can't. It's not mine to give." "It's mine to take." His words were slow, deliberate. "Tell me where you've hidden it." "You don't understand." She looked to the door behind him, the only way out. "It's a weapon. It's dangerous. I can't just—" "I need it." His voice shook the walls. He stopped, hesitating. With an uncertain glance around the room, he lowered his voice and continued. "I need that stone more than you ever will." She took a deep breath and tried to focus. "No good will come of it. Not in your hands. What do you plan to do with it? Would you use it to blackmail? To kill? To—" She lunged forward, aiming for the door. He grabbed her hair and pulled. "Protect." Deaf to her cries, he threw her to the ground. You misunderstand me, princess. He watched her with a wary eye, daring her to rise. Have you ever considered the price of your sheltered life? Have you ever given thought to those who protect you, the sacrifices they've made? Her hand went to the ring around her neck. Her mind went to the picture under her pillow. She clenched her teeth to hold back the sobs, but the tears came on their own. Every day. He wasn't moved. And if it came to you, if the sacrifice fell on your shoulders, what choice would you make? Her head was pounding. She got to her knees. I don't understand. Would you save your family? Would you have saved your parents? She looked up. Her eyes met his in the faint light. Cool, indifferent, empty. Her voice caught in her throat. You... Or would you let them die? She couldn't speak. Her parents, the killer, murderer. She wanted to scream, but the cry wouldn't come. Only a stifled sob. As I thought. He stepped forward. Give me the stone. She didn't answer. He stepped closer. Don't test me. The tears stung her eyes. Why? They never hurt anybody. They never... Give me the stone. He raised his voice again, impatient. I don't have time for this. Tell me where it is, or I'll burn this place to the ground and find it amongst the ashes. She had to get up. She had to do something. I'll start counting. Her head was burning. She felt a fire in her chest. She struggled to her feet, the heat, the magic, spreading to her fingers. She had to fight. But something moved past the man's shoulder. She froze. The door was opening. Timothy. 5. He was focused on her alone, oblivious to the door behind him. I don't know what you're talking about, she cried, panicking as the door opened wider. Is this a game to you? He reached into the folds of his robe and pulled out a round object. 4. The cool indifference was gone. He was furious, dangerous. If she was going to act, she had to act now. But she could see Timothy's wide eyes through the crack in the door. If she used magic now, he would know. He would find out who she was. 3. The round object, the pearl, was glowing. He held it before him, sparks darting across its surface. There wasn't time to wait. She had to do something. But Timothy was watching. He was behind the intruder now, rising to full height with a frying pan in hand. He didn't know what he was doing. He was going to get hurt. 2. The frying pan was above the intruder. Timothy was ready to bring it down. She was afraid, for his sake. He met her gaze, and she saw it. That same fear reflected in his eyes. She couldn't move. 1. A pillar of fire streaked across the room. She fell to the ground, hearing a cry as the flame rushed over her head. There was a thump. A body fell to the ground, and the fire collided with the desk in the back of the room. She got to her feet, dazed. Timothy was standing, his knuckles white, still holding the frying pan, and at his feet lay the intruder, motionless on the floor. Smoke. She whirled around to meet the fire. It had already spread across the desk, threatening to jump to the piano and curtains. Without wasting a moment, she grabbed a heavy blanket and draped it over the flames. Miraculously, the fire was snuffed out. She had acted just in time. Still shaking, she turned around. The man was unconscious on the floor, but Timothy was gone. "Timothy?" She stepped forward. "Timothy!" "I'm right here." He emerged from the bedroom with a coil of rope. "Are you all right?" She stared at him, struggling to speak. "I think I'm okay." He stooped down and began tying the man's hands. "Find the arbiters. Tell them we've had a break-in." He looked up from his work, his face blank. "Can you do that for me?" She swallowed nervously and nodded. "I can do it." Her legs were shaking as she headed for the door. He finished tying the man's wrists. "Saphira?" She gripped the edge of the door, eyes wide. "I think it's best you stay with Kit and Annie for the night, just to be safe." Her voice was a whisper. "What about you?" "I'll be fine." He turned back to the task at hand. "Go now, and wait there until I come get you." One last time, he looked to her. "Go." A moment, and she was gone. He turned back to the rope in his hands, making sure the bonds were tight, dreadfully tight. He pulled at the ends and secured the knots, refusing to relax until he was sure of his work. Finally, he let himself breathe again, his quickened pulse slowing back into its usual rhythm. Saphira was safe. They were both safe. Face to the ground, the intruder moaned. He was regaining consciousness. Taking advantage of the moment, Timothy turned the man over. His eyes widened in recognition as he saw his face. He opened the man's cloak, searching his belongings. His efforts produced 2 photographs, a handful of gold coins, and a flyer. The gold he couldn't care less about, but he placed the pictures in his pocket and opened the flyer. His eyes scanned the writing on the page, his brow furrowed in confusion. Glancing at the man's face once more, he eyed the title on the paper and read the name aloud. Imajek. Hey, hi, I'm your narrator, Miranda Eastwood, also the author of The Truth About Goblins. If you liked this chapter, remember to add, follow, or subscribe to this channel so you can hear the next one. And if you didn't like this chapter, oh well, I can't really do anything about that. In any case, I just thought I'd let you know about my Patreon. You can check it out if you'd like to throw some support my way. It would mean a lot to me. Not to mention there's loads of extra exclusive content that I only post on Patreon. While I'm at it, I'll mention that The Truth About Goblins is now available as a complete audiobook, and you can get it wherever you get your audiobooks. Thanks for listening.